before he became a prisoner of war, before the pistol pressed to his temple, before the interrogator with one eye and no mercy. Lester Schrenk was just a farm boy from Minnesota, the kind who rose before dawn to milk cows, the kind who prayed for rain, shoveled hay, and sat around the dinner table with his family every Sunday. He didn't grow up chasing war, but war came anyway. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, he enlisted the moment he turned 19. The Army sent him from pastures to boot camp, then into the skies over Europe as a ball turret gunner on a B-17 Flying Fortress. He was the smallest man on the crew, and that's exactly why they put him in the smallest, most dangerous spot on the plane, a glass sphere underneath the belly, with no room to stand, no place to hide, and no way out when things went wrong. And one day, everything went wrong. Shot down over Denmark, captured, interrogated, tortured, starved, beaten, frozen, and marched across Europe barefoot through snow. This isn't a story of combat. It's a story of survival without weapons, of resistance without escape, and of a young man who held on to the only thing he had left. His name, his rank, his serial number. This is the story of Lester Schrenk, and what it truly means not to break.
What would you do if a Nazi officer pressed a pistol to your temple and screamed, "Tell me what bombs you carried, right now"? Would you give in? Would you crack? Or would you stare back through the sweat and blood and say, "Name, rank, serial number"? Because that's what I did, over and over, until my vision blurred, until I tasted blood, until my eardrum nearly burst from his kicks. Mona, my name is Lester Schrenk. I was a farm boy from Minnesota who ended up inside the belly of a B-17 bomber, hanging in a glass turret below the plane with nothing between me and the sky but steel, sweat, and glass. In February 1944, we were shot down over Denmark during a decoy run meant to lure German fighters away from the Ruhr Valley. 1 second I was watching a fellow bomber take a direct hit. 3 minutes later, we were hit ourselves. Flames, explosions, chaos. 20 minutes of flying hell. Every 10 seconds, another blast. The wing held, barely, until we crossed the coast. Then it blew off. We bailed out just before the fire consumed us. I landed in a muddy field. My parachute hadn't fully deployed. When I looked up, a semicircle of German rifles surrounded me. I never had a chance. They marched us to a commandeered schoolhouse. Then came the trains, the hunger, the thirst, the interrogations. And then came him. A Nazi interrogator with a scar across his face and one arm missing. He knew everything about me, my name, my family, our dairy farm. He wanted more. But I gave him nothing. Name, rank, serial number. And when the pistol came out, I gave it again. This story isn't just about what they did to me. It's about what they couldn't take. Not with fists, not with guns, not even with death marching beside me. They never took my name. They never took my will. None, and that's why I'm here, to tell you the rest. Before the war, I was just a farm kid from North Dakota. I woke up before dawn, helped milk the cows, hauled hay, and prayed for rain in the dry season. My world was small, honest work, strong hands, and Sunday dinners with my family. Then came December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor. I was at the breakfast table when the news came through the radio. My mother gasped. My father went silent. And I knew right then, my life was going to change. I enlisted on my 19th birthday. From there, it was basic training in Utah, then mechanical school in Texas, gunnery training in Florida, and finally, flight crew training in Louisiana. They needed a ball turret gunner for our B-17 crew. No one volunteered. It was the most dangerous position on the plane. Cramped, exposed, and the first target in any fighter attack. I was the smallest guy, 5 feet 112 inches. I fit, so I was chosen. The turret was a glass sphere beneath the belly of the plane, just 3 feet across. I couldn't even wear my full flight suit. Sometimes it was 60 below zero up there, and the electric suits often failed. But I was a farm boy. I knew cold, and I didn't complain. Each mission lasted 10 to 14 hours. We flew in tight formations, engines roaring, praying the flak didn't find us. My job was to scan the skies for German fighters and cut them down before they cut us down. The first mission wasn't too bad, just nerves and adrenaline. The second one was different. Weather turned against us. The other groups turned back. Horror, no, we didn't get the call. We flew into the target alone, straight into the jaws of the Luftwaffe. And then they tore us apart. An engine was shredded. Holes ripped through our tail section. We crash-landed in a construction field in England, barely made it out alive. But the real test, the one that nearly broke me, wasn't over Europe. It was over Denmark. February 22nd, 1944. That's the day we didn't come back. February 22nd, 1944 began like any other mission. Briefing at dawn. Tight formation. Final checks. We were told our group would fly a diversionary run. Our job was to draw the Luftwaffe away from the real targets in the Ruhr. We all knew what that meant. We were bait. Still, we climbed aboard our B-17 like always. Checked the guns. Secured the oxygen. Ran through procedures. When you fly enough missions, you stop thinking about fear. You think about routine, because routine is what keeps you alive. We crossed the North Sea under overcast skies. Below us, the water stretched cold and black. Above us, the sun tried to break through, but never did. The radio chatter was light. No jokes. No stories this time. Then it began. German fighters spotted us near the coast. Me-109s. FW-190s. They came screaming down from the sun. Machine guns blazing. Cannons thudding. Like thunder right next to your head. I saw one of our planes take a direct hit. Just off our left wing. A Ju-88 slammed into it. It erupted in flames, tumbled into the sea. 3 minutes later, it was our turn. A violent explosion rocked the fuselage. The No. 2 engine was gone. Flames licked across the wing. Every 10 seconds, another blast. One so strong it would blow the fire out, only for it to reignite seconds later. The pilot called for the nearest land. 20 minutes due east. That meant we had 20 minutes to stay in the air, on a burning bomber, over open sea. Inside the ball turret, I had time. Time to climb out. Time to prepare. Time to know this might be it. The crew stayed calm, too calm. When death stares you down, sometimes you go quiet. None. As we crossed the coast of Denmark, Sevens. One final explosion shook the plane. The wing tore off. The aircraft banked hard and began to drop. We bailed out. The waist gunner froze at the door. I kicked him hard. He flew out. Then I jumped. My parachute failed to open at first. I reached back, pulled the reserve. The chute snapped open just in time. And then I hit the ground, hard, into a muddy field. I looked up. There they were, German soldiers in a semicircle, rifles raised. No yelling, no threats. Just the cold certainty that I had no place left to run. They took me prisoner. No resistance, no fight, only the silence of surrender. But that silence, it would not last for long. They marched us to a commandeered schoolhouse. The walls still had Danish chalk scribbles on them. It had once been a place for children. Now it held prisoners of war. That night, we slept on concrete floors. No blankets, no food, no light except the glow of cigarette embers and the faint sound of German boots pacing above us. The next day we were loaded onto trucks, then a train, crammed into boxcars like cattle. No seats, no water, no air, only silence and the occasional moan from someone collapsing. By the third day, the hunger was unbearable. Our tongues felt like sandpaper, our legs swollen from standing too long. Then we reached the Luftwaffe interrogation center, a gray stone building with iron doors that looked like they were made to never open from the inside. Inside the waiting room, it was dead quiet, until it wasn't. We heard screams, beatings, begging, a gunshot. Men went in and didn't come out the same. Some limped. Some cried. One man had to be carried out. When it was my turn, a guard pushed me into a dark hallway. He had one arm missing and a long scar that stretched across his face. Where one of his eyes used to be, there was only a hollow patch of skin. He led me into the room and shut the door behind me. A German officer sat at a desk, smiling like we were old friends. He offered me a chair, a cigarette. I refused both and stood straight. He said my name, then my parents' names, my hometown, our farm, my brother and sister. He had a file in front of him with everything about me, things I thought were private, things that shook me. He handed me a Red Cross form, told me to write down my name, my rank. Then he pointed to the rest: aircraft, bomb type, altitude, target. I left them blank. He screamed, accused me of lying, said they already knew I flew a B-17, ordered me to write it down. I answered the only way I was trained: name, rank, serial number. He exploded in rage, drew his pistol and struck me across the head. Stars exploded behind my eyes. Blood ran down my temple. Again, he asked. Again, I answered. He beat me again. Behind me, the one-armed guard jabbed my back with his rifle. I stumbled, but didn't fall. The officer raised the pistol to my head, his finger on the trigger. He said this was my last chance. I looked him in the eye and gave him the same answer: name, rank, serial number. He screamed again, kicked me so hard I flew across the room and nearly hit the wall. Then it was over. They dragged me out, my head throbbing, my ribs aching. Later, I would learn the truth. If I had said one more word, they would have beaten me even worse, because once you give them something, they know they can break you. They didn't break me, but I had never felt pain like that. Not in the turret, not in the crash, not in the cold. This was different. This was personal, and it was only the beginning. After the interrogation, they gave us a slice of bread smeared with jelly made from beets. We ate it like it was a feast. Then they took our shoes and stockings, marched us barefoot through the snow to the train station. We huddled together, trying to keep our feet from turning black with frost. The train ride led us to Stalag Luft 6, a prisoner camp near the Baltic Sea. There was no heat, no blankets, only body heat and damp straw floors. We slept shoulder to shoulder like animals, one eye always open. You got one meal a day, if that, sometimes not even that. One day, someone desecrated a picture of Hitler. We paid for it. The guards beat men indiscriminately, ripped Red Cross parcels out of their hands, kicked teeth in. They punished all for the crime of one. Then we heard it. Artillery. Far off at first. Then closer. The Russians were coming. And the Germans panicked. They ordered an evacuation. We were shoved into boxcars. No food, no water, no space to sit. Just the smell of urine, sweat, and vomit. The doors were sealed shut, and the train cooked us alive in the noon sun. By nightfall, they moved us onto a coal ship. Hundreds of us packed into the hold, standing room only. The floor was slick with coal dust and human waste. Men collapsed. Some never got back up. The stench was unbearable. 3 days. No food. No water. When we docked, they made us put on our overcoats in the blazing heat, then shackled us in pairs, and handed each man 2 Red Cross parcels. For a moment, hope flickered. Then it vanished. Bayonets fixed. Dogs released. They drove us 5 kilometers down a road, shoving, stabbing, laughing. If you dropped a parcel, they screamed that you didn't want it. If you held onto it, they beat you until you let go. I kept mine, barely, but it would cost me. At the next stop, they ordered a strip search. One by one, each man was taken behind a shed. I was pulled aside by a guard we called Ham Hands. Sevens. He had a face like a brick and a heart like stone. He wanted my parcels. I said they were mine. He hit me with the butt of his rifle, then his fists, then his pistol. My head was split open. Blood poured down my face. He struck me 5 times. I knew the 6th would kill me. So I let go, let him have the parcels. But as soon as his back turned, I grabbed my clothes, ran into the crowd, and pretended to be one of the men already searched. Covered my face, held my breath. He came looking for me, passed by, didn't recognize me. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared into the black, knowing that every step forward was further into something worse. And yet, I was still alive. Barely, but breathing, and I still hadn't broken. 86 days. That's how long the death march lasted. No shelter, no warmth. 1 blanket shared between 5 men. Some nights we slept in frozen barns. Other nights, just the dirt and the wind. If a man fell behind, he was left behind. And we all knew what that meant. I don't remember the moment I was liberated. Not clearly. What I remember is the silence. No dogs barking. No boot stomping, just the soft, stunned disbelief that it was over. British soldiers found us. They treated us like brothers, deloused us, fed us, let us shave and bathe for the first time in over a year. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Hollow eyes, sunken cheeks. But behind the grime and blood and scars, I saw life. I survived, not because I was the strongest or the smartest. I was just one man, one scared farm boy from Minnesota who refused to surrender more than his freedom. People ask me what I'm most proud of. It's simple. I didn't break. Not in the interrogation room. Not on the death train. Not when they beat me bloody for holding onto a Red Cross parcel. And not when they tried to starve the soul out of me. Freedom is not something you understand until it's taken. Until you feel what it's like to be nothing. To be a number. To be hunted and humiliated. But I came back, and I've spent my life telling this story. Not for myself, but for the ones who didn't make it. Because if we forget what they did to us, then we let them do it again.